I'm Anthony Gethers.
And I'm Greg Weiss.
And we are the hosts of Case-4-BASS.
Hey, this is Michael Modeste, bass player for Dead by Wednesday, and you are watching the CASE-4-BASS, greatest instrument on the planet.
We have a very unique and special guest, bassist from Dead by Wednesday, Mike Modeste. Everyone give Mike a best round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you, fellas.
Mike. Absolutely. All right, Mike, let's just get into it. So,
all right.
When we last spoke, you mentioned that you were a jazz player that ended up going into the the realm of metal.
Yeah.
How did that happen? What was that process like?
So I started off in high school playing, thrash metal. I actually went from like Prince to Metallica and Anthrax. And after high school, I kind of stepped away from music completely. And then when I decided to get back into it, I wanted to really learn theory. And not the only option, but one of the many options was study jazz. And I think my only exposure to jazz prior to that was like Kenny G. I didn't really understand jazz. I thought I did.
Oh my God. Did you just now say Kenny G?
Yeah. Well,
Kenny G's a Connecticut guy. I'm going to say a local favorite.
I had no exposure to jazz other than pop culture, pop culture references, and even Miles. Like I didn't really understand. And then I auditioned, I got in, and it was all jazz, from bebop, from music from the 20s, the 30s, and just learning the history of jazz, learn theory inside and out. And then I decided to, I was going to look for the next Al Di Meola, and I was going to find the super group that I wanted or play with pro jazz musicians. And I moved to New York and did some more studying, more education. And I don't know, it just, I don't know. I think it was always in the back of my mind to maybe revisit heavier music, but I was so immersed in jazz and jazz fusion that I didn't really think about it until I was at a local show here in New Haven for a band called Gargantua Soul at the time. And I don't know, I just, the heavy music, just, I don't know, that bug bit me again. And there I was, and I just was determined to find a band, a heavy band.
Well, let's circle back to that.
But
so you went from Kenny G. I'm sorry. But
the bass is cool. Okay, I'm gonna defend.
No, that was my first. I didn't know anything beyond jazz other than
look.
Kenny G.
If Pat Metheny and Buddy Rich don't defend Kenny G. I can't defend Kenny G.
Yeah, well,
Now, so
record
Pat
sales change a lot
Metheny,
of people's minds.
Pat Metheny and John
His
Scofield,
mind, not
they were
everybody else's.
they were in the magazines. They were in all, the guitar player and bass player, they were there, but their music was not. You had to look for it, especially in the 80s. And it's not like today, obviously. So I didn't really, I would see Pat Metheny and John Scofield or even Al Di Meola in these magazines and just think, okay, well, these are guitar players that don't play with distortion.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't translate to, and that's jazz fusion. That's not like,
Sure.
bebop. That's not, John Coltrane.
No, that's not Davis Coltrane. Mingus.
Yeah. So
Not even electric bass.
yeah. So, but yeah, I'm glad I did.
Awesome. All right. I always ask questions that pertain to the bass, of course. Did you choose the bass or did the bass choose you?
The bass chose me, but I had been playing guitar for quite some time, and I found the bass an ugly instrument. There was nothing attractive about it. I wanted to play guitar. I saw Prince. I saw Eddie Van Halen.
Whoa, wait. Back up a second there. Did you just now say the bass was unattractive?
When I first, yeah. And now, I'm 12 at the time. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, guitar.
Okay.
We'll
Right.
raise that and go, it just wasn't a guitar.
Okay, good. I was
Yeah.
jump to the screen and choke you.
No, I was just, and then, I had an opportunity to join a band, and there were probably already 4 guitar players, but no one played the bass. So I thought, well, this is my in, this big ugly instrument. I'll figure out how to play it. And then I brought it home, and I was having a hard time because I was playing guitar at the time. I had these 4 strings, they're huge, and then when you try to play lead bass, there is no lead bass. And I couldn't figure out how I want to approach this instrument. I don't want to just play root notes, but I also can't play what I played in guitar.
Okay.
So I was just kind of stuck, and I'm like, I don't know if I really want to keep playing this instrument, pursuing it. Like, I enjoyed slapping and stuff, but I didn't really know what I was doing.
Well, but you knew you had to go somewhere. You knew you knew there was a passion and that you're going to work through this.
Yeah, I was like, all right, I'll try these different things, these different styles of playing. Then I heard Tom Sawyer from Rush, and I heard the bass. Right. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, this instrument, this might be some potential here. And then that was it. Honestly, that was the song that triggered it. And then from there, it was just, learning different. Like, I learned every Rush song I could, and from Rush I went into other styles of music and really
so you went backwards and forwards from listening to Rush.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Very fair. For
Yeah.
me, it was Permanent Waves.
Yeah.
It was Permanent Waves.
I mean, they're all great albums.
Oh my God. Yeah.
No, they're
but
all
there's
awesome
something
albums.
about that bass and the kick drum just locking it in those fills. I was just like, wow, I never heard. And then, you know what else? Roundabout from Yes,
Oh
the Squire.
my God.
So when I heard these 2 songs, I'm like, this instrument is amazing.
You can't go wrong with the live version of yeah.
Yep.
Oh my God,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, so that did it for me, and then I just expanded
Good.
from
We like hearing that. I mean, it's a common theme. We've interviewed players that started with, classical instruments in their hands and then found an electric bass, but we've also found people that, went into either guitar and then discovered the bass to either be a utility member of another band, but eventually this light goes off that you want to find your own path.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
And the bass is perfect for this.
This is the best instrument on the planet. I think that, and maybe the piano.
I think we agree.
Nice. So when you started, now let's talk about your history of playing the instrument. What was the very first bass that you were able to have access to? Like, what was your very first instrument?
It was a Memphis P-bass knockoff.
Okay.
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 So, and
so
then
you still okay. Go ahead.
then I went to a real Fender 70 something P bass. It was the high school jazz band. Someone bought a 70s P bass. I'm pretty sure it was a P bass. It wasn't a jazz bass. And it just kind of stayed in this closet in the original case, collecting dust. And someone said, "Hey, there's a bass. You can sign it out." I'm like, sign it out. So I signed out the bass from the jazz club. Yep, took it home.
Took it home.
Then I learned Tom Sawyer. Then I learned all these different songs. But yeah, it was a Memphis P-bass knockoff, and then I had access to a real one, and then I had to give it back, of course. And I was, from there it was like Ibanez.
What kind of amp were you playing? Big, small. Practice.
Yeah, it was a practice amp. It had to have been like a Fender. I don't think it was an amp. Actually, no. You know what it was? It was the Ampeg with the top that you flip.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
See? Yep. But it had tone.
Yeah.
You had tone. You were finding, what was happening on a record.
Yep.
The best thing about a bass is learning all styles of music don't reflect that you don't change how these other music styles are played. You can copy it. You can be your own. You can do other things with it.
Yeah.
So speaking of application, let's go on to that right now. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about your level of actually in conjunction to you talking about amplification. Let's talk about your involvement of how you evolved with your basses and your amplifiers at the same time. So let's go into your original playing, like you obviously you had a Fender knockoff. You eventually were able to go to school and get you were able to loan or borrow the school's bass, and then you eventually came into your own when?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, not long after, but I went through. I got what I could afford. So Ibanez, crate bass amps. I didn't really understand amplification until, well into an adult. So probably like my mid to late 20s, early 30s. I didn't really have a lot of people, even today, they don't understand how a compressor works. They don't understand compression. So I didn't really understand amplification until I was an adult, and trial and error.
What were you reaching for? What were you reaching for in trying to make a tone?
Probably that Trace Elliott tone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh so my God!
Yeah,
I love Trace Elliott.
All right.
Yes.
We'll give Trace
and
Elliott.
This is early.
And we're not worthy.
We're not worthy.
This is early because I feel like back then a lot of you'd walk into a music store and there'd be like a Trace Elliott rig and all these different, a nice SWR rig that you can play and so even though like my budget was here and these amps cost here, that's the sound I wanted. So if I had to get a cheap PV and some kind of pedal, then that's the tone that I was emulating early on.
So you were doing that based upon your amplification that you had.
Based on what I heard in the stores and what I saw in the magazines.
Okay.
So, but that Trace Elliott tone very early, I was like, wow, that's a nice
question. Were you going to clubs and listening to bands and trying to hear what other players were creating?
No, not until much.
Okay, it's just a question.
That's like, that's, you would think that would be the smart thing to do.
Well,
But
it's not
no.
just, I mean, it's not a question of smart. When I was playing, I didn't get out and see a band, you know, for 4 or 5 years. And then when I got out and I saw what other people were playing, yeah, I was just so caught up in the moment that I was actually watching somebody, you know,
Yeah.
and you'd see what their amps were. And, you know, sometimes they had SVTs and sometimes they had a little combo with a mic on it. And at that point, people started running direct, and, you know, it's just everyone's got a different experience with it.
Yeah. That actually, you know, once I started to, like, I did some weddings, you know, I did a couple weddings. I started hooking up with some musicians and gigging musicians. And then I would look at what they were playing and what they were using. And, you know, but when I was younger, like, I just either saw the, you know, high end gear. They were like Ferraris to me.
Yeah,
That's what I wanted.
yeah.
You know, that's what I wanted.
No, it's perfectly
So,
legit.
and that's what, you know, the people that I was going to see, no one really had those high end amps, only the pros that were coming through town.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever, you know, whatever the concert was, and that band or that artist was playing a, you know, SWR or Heart Key or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you would see that in the magazine, then you would see that on stage, and you're like, okay, well, that's the gear to get. That's the high end gear. That's the
Okay.
fancy stuff.
Well, let me ask you this. So,
Yeah.
That's good.
as far as being like, you got into the bass, when did you realize that you wanted to play professionally? Like, when did you realize that
That's
you
a great
potentially make
question.
money at this? Like, you can potentially become a working bass player.
You know,
And actually, and on top of that question, do you prefer to play originals or do you prefer to play other music as well?
so that's a great question. To answer the first question, that was difficult because I started listening to Marcus Miller and Bella Fleck and the Flecktones. And
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Wait, Marcus Miller.
We're not worthy.
We're not worthy.
We're not worthy.
We will never be worthy.
Yeah.
We're worthy. You may continue.
So I'm like, there's no way I can play like that. I can't play like that. I can't make a living at this instrument. So
Wait, sorry to interrupt you. Greg, he did say Bella fucking Flecktones.
Yeah.
We're not
No,
worthy.
100%. 1,000%. And I was just listening to who his bass player. Oh, Edgar Meyer.
Edgar Meyer was at first, and then Edgar Meyer played with Bella Fleck recently. Well, not Bella Fleck. Yes, he did with Bella Fleck.
Yeah, Bella Fleck, but I think
Yes.
he was an original. I mean,
Yes.
whenever Bella did the big shows,
Hmm.
Edgar was there.
Yep. All right. Sorry
Oh.
about that.
So, yeah,
No
it was
problem.
interesting.
Okay.
So, you know, I stopped. I kind of put it down for a little while, and then I was just like, I was listening. I never stopped listening to Marcus or Victor. I never stopped listening to those guys. I just kind of put the instrument down. And then one day I was just like, you know, they had to get to that level. They didn't put the instrument down. So if I can't play like Marcus, oh well. If I can't play like Victor, oh well. But that doesn't mean I can't come up with my own style and push that and keep playing the instrument. So I'm just going to try to make a living at it.
Okay. Well,
That's how it came about.
Sorry for interrupting you. What made you put the instrument down for a while? You said that you stopped for a little while. Like what? Like why did you choose to not play?
Because there was no way I can get my thumb to do it. Victor or Marcus, or there were a couple other bass players that just doing these crazy triplets, and I'm like, that must be, you know, all the pros are doing it. I can't do it, so you know, why pursue that? But then, you know, I was just like, that's stupid.
Okay.
And I picked it up. It wasn't that long. I would say probably an entire summer.
Listening to what you said, it sounds like, you know, when you play a bass and you hear these other players play impossible riffs, sometimes you look inside and you go, I can't do that. But at the same time, you go, I'm not actually going to be doing that anyway.
Right.
You know, and you end up growing into your own strengths.
Yes.
And if you discovered one day that you could triplet pop, oh my God, then I could do Marcus riffs, but now I don't have people around me.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the transition from jazz to metal,
Yeah.
like how did that come about? Like what was your first, besides, because you mentioned earlier that you heard Rush, Tom Sawyer, and then of course you
Yeah,
mentioned
but that's not really
Roundabout.
metal
But
anymore, is it?
it's progressive. You would think progressive rock is what they termed it back in the day. So
So
how did you go from that?
well, I needed a band, and once I found a band that was solid or could be solid, then I had to find the approach musically. Because again, I'm not just going to play root notes. So, what can I do? Well, these guys may not know what a major 7 flat, you know, I don't know, major 7 flat 5. They don't know all these different chords. They don't know minor 7. So, if I play this minor triad over this riff that he's playing, they're going to be like, hey, that sounds great. But they may not realize that I'm just taking standard theory and just applying it to the context of the music. So even though I may not be in a jazz setting or a jazz fusion setting, notes are notes, theory is theory, and music is music. So you can apply that, and they may not realize that. They may just think, whoa, that's a cool groove, but that may be a standard progression, 1-4-5 progression that I used to play way back when and with my jazz band, and now I'm playing it here, and it's theory. So it sounds good. Ultimately, it's going to sound good to the ear.
It sounds like you're bringing a confidence level into your playing, because you're not looking as to what to play. You know what to play.
Yeah. Right.
And I don't want to say it the wrong way, but when you feel like a big fish in a little pond, it makes you a little more comfortable in your skin.
Yeah. You can move around the neck better,
and they're not looking at you
riffs.
funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, just like the jazz, rock, metal, whatever, it has to groove. If it doesn't groove, it's nothing.
No, well, that's the case for bass, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. If the bass don't swing.
I mean, you got to see groove. Anthony play. I was pulling out videos last night of him taking my bass at a club and making me look bad and dancing around. And he's got 2 chicks on each arm. And,
I have a fun time when I play the instrument. Bro.
Yeah. And I'm the guy with the camera, taping it. But I mean, I learned from that. And it's just, he's been in an incredible amount of situations, and when he turns it on, there's no safety valve, there's no off switch.
No,
and he's making the groove happen, and there's 5 other guys on stage going, "Oh my God, that guy's really grooving," and I don't know what I'm doing.
I forced them to keep up. That's exactly it.
No, it's true. Yep. It's true. I'll send you that video later if I didn't send it already.
Yep. Now, speaking of which, so when you write tunes, because obviously your band's a metal band, led by Wednesday's Metal Band, how do you apply your style of playing and your sound in the creation of your songs?
It depends how the riff is going. I have to feel it out, but I always feel like you have to find a blend between locking in and grooving and playing what's there, and then you find a quarter note or a half note. You have this much of a measure where you can do you got like that little piece where you can add your stamp, your your flair, and then you go back to the rhythm and you play. So what I like to do is, because we're a single guitar band, a lot of counterpoint melodies. If he's playing this and I'm playing that, that's where I can throw in that jazz education and that music theory,
inversions and harmonies.
Yes, right. So you make a drum, bass, and guitar. You make that sound like 2 guitars, and 2 drums and 2 bass players. You just find a way to layer the music so it sounds bigger.
You're
the
preaching to
chord
the
sounds
choir right here. You know,
That's true. You are preaching to the choir. Yes. But
I've
let me
been in
ask you this.
3-piece bands so forever.
Tosin Abasi from Animals as Leaders once said that most guys, when they come from a guitar background and they're educated, he goes, usually they go, he goes, either when they get out of school, either they're playing jazz or they're playing progressive metal. I mean, you know the band Animals as Leaders, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Tosin Abasi, he's nuts. Do you find that's a true statement?
Yeah. Or they end up just being session musicians for whatever, whoever,
Okay.
pop, whatever, session musicians, session backup guys, live touring musicians. But yeah, there's, I spent some time in the prog fusion world too. So
Okay.
yeah, I see it.
Okay.
Definitely.
Cool.
I have a question.
Yes.
Now, I'm looking over your shoulder and I see a forest.
There's a forest.
And I'm not going to ask you to pull out every bass, but if you went from 3, 2 to 1 to which ones were your favorites and the most played, I'm pretty sure you're going to have a couple fans of your equipment out here.
Yeah, so let me take a look. This is my most recent acquisition. This has become my favorite.
Ooh.
Not sure if you can see it.
Whoa,
Put it closer.
It's a Stingray.
Hey!
Stingray.
Yeah, that's what I got behind me. My Stingray.
Raspberry Burst. So this is number 1.
That is stunning.
Dude.
I love it.
Just model it like Vanna White.
Yeah.
Look at that.
We want to see it. Show us the pickups and the bridge, man.
Wait, let me put you in full view. 1 second.
Oh wow.
There we go. Look at that.
Oh
Look at that
wow.
thing.
Oh, I love this thing.
Wow.
All right, so this is number 1.
We love it too. What kind of
There we
strings
go.
are on it?
Ernie Ball.
Okay.
So yeah. So
round of applause for the Interball Stingray.
Why not?
here's number 2.
We're always seeking sponsorship.
There we go.
Another
Ooh.
Stingray.
Hey.
Oh,
Now this one,
Look at that.
I decided to. So the thing with this, Fleas. You remember Fleas Modulus
yes.
5-string, and it had the stickers all over. Well, I was like, man, one day I would like to do. Yeah. So
Yes.
I made it this one,
Nice.
and this
That's
one,
gorgeous.
It's
it
very tasteful.
sounds great too, but it doesn't sound as good as the one that I just showed you, and I think it's
Really?
because of the neck. Yeah, I think it's the
Okay.
neck.
Wow.
I think that ebony neck, it has a more sustain.
What's an ebony?
It
neck?
really.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Anthony and I are Maple guys, so
We're Maple dudes. Yep.
we're Maple guys,
Yeah, we're Maple dudes.
Yeah.
and that's because of Marcus. I'm
Yeah.
a Maple guy because
Yeah.
of Marcus. So
And then I'll show you the last. Now I do have a Spectre, and I play that a lot.
Nice.
But this bad boy right here, it's a Tobias Growler 5.
Okay.
This thing has withstood the test of time. It always works, and I have had gigs where even where like the Bartolini, even if it sounds off, it always works. And that Bartolini just sits so nice.
active.
Yeah, active. The only reason why I don't use it too much is because the bridge, although it's a decent bridge, it doesn't hold up to a lot of the bridges you will find today.
Really?
When you say
Yeah.
bridges, is that due to the intensity level of your strike?
It could be, because I've noticed that with the Tobiases and never with the Ernie balls, never. I can pound that thing
All day.
and yeah,
Wow.
the bridge is solid. So yeah, those are my top 3.
All right.
That's serious.
But thank you. But
Yeah,
the Spectre is awesome. I love the Spectre too. It's just
Okay.
So
it's getting
the
heavy.
Raspberry Music Man is the bass in the bag near the door.
Yeah.
That's the go.
Yes.
Wow.
We had
Yeah.
another guest, and we were talking about his basses, and he goes, "This is the bass that's always in the bag next to
Yeah.
the door whenever the phone rings."
Yep. Yeah. If I have to leave, it's going to be that one, and then the black one as the backup.
Wow.
Well, thank you for
So-
sharing that with us.
Yeah,
Yes, Thank
absolutely.
you very much for that. So
You
what
know,
made
problem.
you
it's
go,
tools of the
did you
trade.
find did you find Ernie Ball? Did you find it later in life, or is it something that you were always into?
I loved the sound of the instrument, but when I had one, I couldn't get it to sound like that.
Okay.
And I don't, part of it probably I didn't really know what I was doing, but I played it for a little while and then moved on to something else. Maybe it was the Roscoe or
Okay.
or something. And then, I keep hearing it in all these songs. I'm like, damn, man, that's such a great tone.
Yeah.
So
Anthony and I talk about Fender DNA,
Yes,
and that we won't play a
we're both.
bass that doesn't have it, and we both play G&Ls. Anthony's endorsed by G&L,
really,
and
I like G&Ls too.
oh well, just to say it's the Fender DNA. I mean, I got a
It's the
jazz
Fender
bass,
DNA.
I got a G&L,
Yeah.
I got an Ernie Ball, Sterling, and music.
We've both
Man,
been through
actually.
the ringer when it comes to G&L, music band, jazz, or P bass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of the only one I choose not to play around with. I played a Tele bass years ago. I hated that thing.
I
Yeah.
keep wanting one, but now you've totally turned me off from it.
I just didn't like how it felt, as
Yeah.
an instrument.
Yeah.
So yes. Wow, man. So yeah, by the way, thank you for modeling your awesome
No
instruments.
problem.
Yeah,
Like,
we
absolutely.
really like that first. That's an Ernie Ball, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
nice
love
bass.
that thing.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, it's funny because we have no problems geeking out over this stuff. Like we really don't. Like we can do
Me
this.
too.
Yeah, we're like,
Well,
oh my
but
God,
it's part of who we are. I mean, it's the attraction, and that you generate your tones and you generate,
Yeah.
your groove, and it sometimes you talk to people and they're like, oh, you can get on stage, aren't you nervous? And I'm like, well, it's where I get to meditate in front of 500 people.
Yeah.
I only feel at ease when there is a crowd. So
Yeah. And what sucks? The last song of the set. when you got to land the plane and go back to reality and day-to-day stuff.
It's true. I hate to say it like that, but it's very true.
Yeah.
You're not going to get into the. It's the last song of the set. That it's almost anticlimactic in a sense. Like you're here, you are having a fun time. The audience is really clapping off for you. You're doing great. And the worst part of the night is we have to go, bam.
Yeah.
It's like you're ending. It's almost like the drug that you actually felt
Yeah.
at that moment, the high.
Yep.
Now you're coming down and you're like, oh.
I've had times in life where I've just been going through some really tough times and I'm on stage and you forget about it. And then the last song, and you're like, oh man, I got to deal with that freaking thing.
Yep. Well, to add what Greg said earlier, I don't drink or smoke. So my only high is the music.
Yeah.
So the drummer has to be super good. Because there's times where I would like threaten to throw my bass at him. I'm like, dude, I don't get high. I don't smoke. I don't drink. My high is the music. If you fuck with my high, I'm going to so mangle you up after the show.
Yeah.
If I make it through. Because a lot of times there are times I play with guys, I would just walk off stage. Or look up and walk right off.
I'm just going to asterisk that and just say me neither because of my health condition. So,
yeah.
But
it's just not
Anthony on that.
If
I'm not playing, I'm thinking about playing. So,
yep.
Mm-hmm.
No, it has to add on to that. So let's talk about the last few albums you've worked on with your band, Dead by Wednesday. So give me the recording process of what you were working with, starting with album 1. As a bass player, from your bass player's perspective and your influence.
I mean, the first one, I was so green, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna shred all over this album, all over this track. And then when we finally listened to the mix down, I was so buried in the mix. You could hear the important stuff. The groove stuff, the important stuff was there, but all my little nuances that didn't come through.
But who
So
buried
that's
you?
the first
Yeah,
album.
who buried you in the mix?
I mean, you know, ultimately the producer is responsible,
Okay.
but
And that
I
wasn't
was
you.
just no. I was this was I think it wasn't major label, but it was a pretty big indie label. So I was
Okay.
just happy to be recording something.
Okay.
So I was a little ticked that, you know, but then I thought, well, I need to be playing a Warwick or something.
Mhm.
Clearly, I'm not playing the right
Sure,
instrument.
sure. Well, this is
So
where the studio process becomes very different. A lot of musicians don't understand the studio process. I take pride in working in the studio. I love the studio.
yeah,
And the only way to ensure that you're in the mix is that you got to be a producer. You got to
Mhm.
be a co-producer with the band. If you can get involved as a co-producer, that almost guarantees you that you're going to be present, because now you're not just coming in with the songs, but you're coming in with the contribution of what you wrote in your
right.
parts. I did a thing years ago. The guy Richard Goddard, he was hang on, Sloopy, hang on, in the early '60s, and
hmm
but we ended up recording our material first, and then he came in.
Okay.
So he was trying to make these changes, and we were like, nope, sorry,
Right.
nope. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, because he was trying to make changes to cater to what he wanted at first, and we
Yeah.
were like, nah, man, we produced this before you showed up. You liked it as it is, and
Right.
then you decided that you want to add more stuff to it. It's like, nope, we're not making the changes. So, and we actually, just to play it safe, we started our own publishing company, so
Mm.
that we already own half of the publishings. So the
Okay.
only part that was negotiable was the other 50%.
Right.
So he knew that by doing that, I mean, he hated us actually, because like you mentioned earlier, like, you know, then when you're green, when you go into the studio, I've been doing it long enough that I knew that when I
Right.
finally work with these guys, I kind of know what I want to hear when I'm recording stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
So yeah, right. Our first few albums kind of followed that process. The last album and probably the next album, we recorded, like, I did my tracks at home. Like by this time, I had Cubase, I believe. I had my own home studio, and actually, we were victims of COVID. We had to do this.
sure,
With
sure.
COVID.
The album fell right when COVID started, so we had to find a way to do our own tracks. So I got a quick little Cubase setup. Our singer had Pro Tools. Our guitar player may have had, I think he's got Pro Tools too. And the only person that actually needed to go into the studio was our drummer.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was a much, much better experience. I had I had 70% control
Okay.
of how I sounded. So I was much happier with that process. Hopefully we'll be doing that again.
You're not
So
going
you
to
weren't-
believe this, but Anthony and I talk on the phone after these shows and these interviews are over. And we've been talking like this for months. And even after this is over, we'll spend 3 hours talking about bass players and records. And I'll cut to the chase is that we talk about bass players that become victims of their producers. and you know, like we talk about some of the great bands, and I'm not going to say Judas Priest has the greatest bass lines, but just to give a clear example of, he isn't big in the mix because of the producers, or like we're going to say it, Van Halen, or even like Rainbow with Roger Glover, that these guys are all fantastic bass players, but you never really get to hear it on the record.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's just this running occurrence. I mean, there's big articles about it all over the internet about, you know, what they call an underrated bass player. And you know, whether you are or aren't, you know, it's just part of that experience of being in a band, and
Right.
sometimes not having that control over where you've ended up in a band, where when you get on stage, they hear you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
or
I'm going to add on to that.
as Doug Pennick said, you have the power.
You have the power. I'm going to add
Yeah.
on to that.
Oh,
Galen Dorsey once said in an interview, actually, she's going to be on Case for Bass sometime in February.
that's
Yeah, I
right.
saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Galen Dorsey once said, and I watched her in another interview, you have to serve the song. So
Right. Yeah. Wow.
now if you look at R&B, like R&B is a perfect example. So you're talking, the bass player Steve Harris is also the founder and he's the main songwriter. Trust me, his bass lines are in there.
Yes.
With Judas Priest, the bass is not. See, Steve Harris is one. He's number one. With Judas Priest, the bass player is like in the bottom.
No,
he's next.
Well,
to
it's a guitar band. I mean, I just used it as an example of he is a victim of it because he deserved to be.
Yeah. You mean to say that he deserved to have his ass whipped?
No, it's just there's the way the songs are constructed. There's no riff.
But you know what? Here's a good.
Come on, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
So Robert Trujillo plays Metallica.
Before you continue, we're not worthy. We're not. Okay.
Amazing bass player.
Yes.
Amazing bass player. If his work on Infectious Grooves is amazing.
Yes.
But when he was touring with Ozzy, still a great bass player, but he's not doing all those flashy things because now this is the gig, this is the job. Ozzy wants you to play it, boom, 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 nice and straight. There might be a little break in the show where you can flash, but other than that, and again, he's paying bills. He's a working musician, so if Ozzy says play it like this, he's going to play it like that.
Oh, that's funny that you mentioned that because I know I'm not friends with Sharon, but I worked with Sharon before in the past. She coordinates all that stuff, so
I believe it.
She probably told Robert,
yeah,
okay, Roberto, this is how it works. Listen to these albums.
Another example of that, though.
As they sound.
Another example is Marcus Miller. That there's this video. I'll post it on the Facebook page of Marcus Miller playing with Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters, and there's 8 other guys on that stage that are just pushing it past 10, and yet Marcus is the guy who develops the groove in this part of the song, and he doesn't unleash. He doesn't show you that Marcus rules. He shows you that Marcus supports.
Yep.
Yeah.
And even when that groove is taken off and that whole root thing that he started isn't even like present anymore, and he's drifting into the Marcus sphere of his own tone, he's pushing other players. No, we're big fans. I mean, I spent a lot of my time, but while I was even after learning, just trying to figure out an identity, was running into Manhattan and watching like a ton of these guys play in this little bar. And I'm watching Stanley Banks and one of the great guys, Wayne Pezwater, who was in Buddy Rich's band for about 8 years. And he left Berkeley and he was in Buddy Rich's band, and he was in Blood, Sweat, and Tears. So he's got great solos on YouTube. But like these guys, when you talk about serving the song, it's what they do. It's what
they do.
These players traditionally do.
Yeah.
And that this whole electric thing of really stepping out is a phenomenon. And it's a phenomenon by a Geddy Lee, by a Chris Squire. I'll even put in a Geezer Butler because his undertones.
Ridiculous.
It makes you literally, I don't want to say subservient, but like they become iconic to you.
Geezer Butler,
inspiration.
on top of that, Geezer, if you listen to War Pigs, that song fucking grooves.
Yeah. I had to learn it. And our drummer plays in a Sabbath tribute band that tours in Europe.
Nice.
So I think I filled in for that song. He's like, look, I think I played it like
400
like
times.
Faith No More. No, Faith No More. He's like, look, if you're going to play the song, it's going to be exactly like Geezer Butler plays it.
Well,
when
you hear the missing parts, it makes you want to dig deeper.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I
learned like you were playing Epic of Faith No More.
Yeah, and he's like, no, that's not going to cut it, man. It's that ear.
Yeah,
too.
No,
it is
I
the
know.
ear.
Yeah,
but most funny, I learned that from a guy many years ago. This guy, Chris Pascione, may he rest in peace. But he taught me. He was the one that said, "Listen to the nuances of the drum and the bass." He goes, in Sabbath in particular. He said, just the way they groove. He goes, the groove is absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And when I hear it, I get chills. I literally get chills. And I
wouldn't-
literally
you don't hear that groove in that style of music. That's like,
no.
geez,
No.
I don't even want to label it like funk or anything like that, but it's
bluesy.
really,
It's,
yes.
it's
very.
bluesy.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
where I'll start and end with it. There's no other word to get around that.
Yep. But
Mhm.
what makes it cool is the buildup. It's that
Yeah.
tick tock, boom, boom, boom,
Yep. Yes.
and then the bam,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's high energy, man.
bam, and then it
Yeah.
goes into the general others and the masses, bam, bam, and then of course,
You know, we're going to drift from bass here, but I mean, they're contrasting. They're contrasting Zeppelin. They're
Oh my God.
contrasting the Beatles. They're contrasting the Stones, and they opened up their own doorway with that sound.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
In a huge
They
way.
absolutely did.
All right, Mike. This is my last question. Our last question before we
Okay.
fade out.
Which will be 6 questions, but
It's gonna be
before,
6
That's
questions.
cool.
Well, actually, we gotta keep it shorter because.
but we want to thank you for coming out and
Yeah.
you know, speaking with us and telling us, you know, how you keep it
Yes.
real.
But
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
what would you tell an up and coming bass player, up and inspiring musician? What advice or tips would you give to them?
So, the last time you asked me that, I've been thinking about that question ever since.
Mm.
And I think I would have to change it a little bit because I think the last time I was like, read music and learn the neck. I still think you absolutely should learn the neck. But the second thing I would say is just have fun with the instrument. And it sounds so generic and cliche,
Okay.
but you know, you don't know. I mean,
Yeah, but
you don't need to read music
it's a
to
top
be a
part of
pro
your tone.
musician. You don't need to but what you do need to do is have fun playing the instrument and explore. And that's how you learn how to get different tones and, you know, try different amps, try different guitars, and just explore the instrument.
Awesome.
That's the advice I would give.
All right, cool, man. Everyone, big shout out to Michael Modeste from Dead by Wednesday.
I just want to
Thank
say
you,
Mike's
thank you.
playing at a really big club in Connecticut.
Yeah,
it's gonna
this
be
is a big
January
show.
15th, and they're playing at Toad's Place. And I don't know if you know about Toad's Place, Anthony.
I don't.
Toad's
yeah, I've been
Place
to some
became.
other
I never
times.
heard of it until the Rolling Stones showed up,
Yep.
and that's what put that place on the map. They were big before that, but
Yeah.
when people heard that the Rolling Stones just walked in the door and played this whole concert.
Yep.
You know,
Yes.
as for going from concert band to bar band again, it tattooed and branded the identity of this bar. And I mean, I'm talking 40, 50 years already from when that event happened.
Mhm.
But Dead by Wednesday is going to be doing a really big show. Hopefully, we get some
Yep.
footage of that. And
Yeah, it's yes, Saturday 13th. It actually doors open at 3, so it's a all ages show, mid-afternoon start, and it wraps up at 10:30. And there's 2 stages, tons of bands.
big show.
We're going to be headlining, and it's going to be a lot of fun. They're actually filming a documentary on Toad's Place.
Oh,
So
yes.
Really?
Well, there's already
yeah.
a book.
So they're
There's
going to be
already a book.
shooting some footage on Saturday.
Yeah, we've
But
got other
that'll be-
friends that play there who live in the area. They
Okay.
sometimes come down from the Boston area. These are more jazz guys who play on weekdays, and you know, it's just
Oh, they should come down.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll definitely promote it and put it out there. I had heard about the show from the Facebook group that I run, Support Your Local Live Bands, and I pointed at my screen and I go, I know a guy in that headliner band, and that's
Yes.
what this is about. It's about keeping it real.
Absolutely.
So
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you for having me, guys.